what are we going to talk about today? First, we start with package management because this is the main purpose of Composer, obviously. But we are doing some advanced stuff there because I think everybody knows how Composer basically works. Then we talk a bit about custom repositories, Composer scripts, the runtime utilities Composer provides, and then we do a little summary at the end. So that happened already once. So what I did in advance is I installed a fresh Laravel application, nothing special except from I've added DOM PDF just for the purpose to show some stuff with this package. When we go to the terminal, we are in this directory of the Laravel application. Obviously, we can do all the Composer commands. And the first command I want to show you is the audit command. This command was added with Composer version 2.4, I think, maybe 1 year ago or a bit more. And what it does, it checks all your packages if there are known security issues. So we have one here from the DOM PDF. That's the reason why I've added this library first place. And what we can see here is that all the versions affected are the versions below 2.0.4. And the version we have here is the version 2.0.3. What we can do with the audit command as well is we can tell it to only use the packages that are not in the dev requirements, and we can force it to only look into the Composer log file. Obviously, we have the same result, but that's helpful when you run it in a CI pipeline, for example. Then you don't have to install all the packages first. And one nice thing, we can output the format as JSON. That's pretty handy when you want to parse it. Then you don't have to parse the raw console output. Yep. Obviously, what we can do when we want to upgrade the packages, we can first use Composer outdate. Yes, typing is hard. So we can run Composer outdated, and then it shows all the packages that are outdated. The one at the top are the direct dependencies that are configured in the composer.json file. And as we can see here, DOM PDF has a newer version available that is not affected by the security issue. So we can run composer update. And of course, DOM PDF and some other packages get updated. And when we run the composer audit command again, we can see there are no security vulnerabilities anymore. Yeah, that's not very interesting, I guess. When we go to the browser and let's check if everything's still working. Oh, there is an error. Our application is not compatible with the latest version of Laravel. As you can see, yeah, I did this on purpose to show you some more stuff we can do. When we roll back everything, the application is working again. Instead of updating all the packages, we can update a single package. So we can run composer update DOM PDF. And then, of course, only this package gets upgraded. We have no security issues and the application is still running. But we upgraded only this dependency, but all the other dependencies could be upgraded except from Laravel. So what can we do? We have many options. There are better and worse options. One of the options is we can go to the composer.json file and enforce to have 11.3. Oh, you're right. Thank you, Ruslan. That's the wrong. So that's right. Run composer update again. And then Laravel Pint gets upgraded, Laravel framework is not upgraded, and our application is still running. But in the long run, that's a bad idea because in 2 months or 3 months, there are many more upgrades to the Laravel framework. Probably they are not breaking anymore with our application, and we are not happy doing it this way. So let's roll back everything again. What we can do instead is run composer update with this with option. We can pass here Laravel framework and say which version we want to explicitly have been used by the upgrade. So you can see it updates all the dependencies except from the Laravel framework because it's the version we are already using. I think that's a very nice way to update all the dependency except from one. In the composer log file, it's still 11.3, but the composer JSON allows to upgrade for the next release or the next week, whatever. What you can do with the with command as well, or with the with option, you can downgrade the package to whichever version you like. The only restriction here is when we want to downgrade to Laravel 10, it tells us that's not possible because 10.2 is not within the constraint that is defined in composer.json. It's not a 11 version. So we can only use the within the constraints defined in your composer.json. Yep. Let's revert everything again. Then something else we can do with Composer is obviously install new packages. So we can require, for example, the Guzzle HTTP client. I've defined a version here, it's 7.7, and we run Composer Quire. We see this output. Most likely you have seen this output before. I think it's not a pretty nice output because it's very hard to see what's the reason why we cannot install this version. We only have 3 problems. That's not too bad. Often you see 7, 8, or 10 problems here. But what you can do with Composer is you can use the no, that's a bad idea. You can use, instead of require, you can use why not. It tells us why we cannot use this package, and it tells us exactly in one line what the problem is. That's much better than, I think. Good. Why not can do more stuff. Why not can tell us why we cannot use PHP 8.1, for example. It lists us all the packages that prevent us from using PHP.1. We can even say we want to use PHP 8.4, which isn't available right now. But as you can see, only 3 packages will restrict us from using PHP 8.4 when it comes out, at least at the moment. So that's it about Composer. Why not? Let's clear the terminal. Something else we can do instead of adding packages, we can remove a package. I've chosen one of the packages that is installed within the dependencies of Laravel. So when we are going to try to remove this package, it tells us it failed because it's still present. It's still present because it is required by another package. Composer then suggests us to use not why not, but it suggests to use why, the opposite of why not from before. And then it tells us, okay, we cannot remove this package because it's used by this package. But why is this package used? We can do the same again. And then we can see, oh, that's used by PHP unit. That's a bit annoying. So there is another option. You can -R, which gives us a recursive version. It looks a bit like the error from before with the composer require. It's not really obvious what happens here or what's the reason. What you can do is, instead of recursive, you can ask composer to give us a nice tree representation, and then we can see this package is required by Paratest, which is required by Pest, which is required by the Laravel plugin, blah, blah, blah. And all the dependencies, or the fully dependencies tree, why we cannot remove this package. I think that's very handy as well. Something else I want to mention, we talked about composer update before. Here we are in a Laravel application. So when you're running composer update, your composer log file gets updated. You're going to commit the composer log file to your Git repository normally. So every developer has the same packages. The production environment has the exact same versions of the packages. But that's not the same when you're developing a package. When you're developing a package that is used by other applications, you're not pushing the composer log file. You only push the composer JSON file, and in there you define which dependencies your packages has. So you cannot ensure which package or which dependency in which version is exactly used when an application consumes or uses your package. So what you normally do is you run composer update in your package when you are developing, you run your test suite and everything is fine. But often a client or a user of the package has older versions, and composer gives us the option prefer lowest. And what it does is it downgrades all the packages to the lowest version that could be possibly used. So now you have the latest and the oldest versions, and you can run the test suite against both of them. So when you have a CI pipeline for a package, you often run the test suite twice, once for the latest and one for the oldest version. What you can see is it already tells us it has 6 security vulnerabilities now because we are using older versions. Then we can run composer update again, go back to the latest versions of the packages. And what we can do now is run composer bump. What it does, let's go to the composer JSON. It updates the composer file to actually require as the minimal version, the version that you have currently installed. So you can enforce the lower boundary of the packages to the currently installed ones. That's normally something that you don't do in your application, but it's something that you can do when you have a package available for others to use. Be careful a bit, because you restrict the possible usage and the possible backward compatibilities with other packages. So maybe you break something for the users of your package, but you can enforce or can be more sure what versions of packages are used. Yep. Let's revert everything again. That's about composer update. Next, composer has some more commands to offer. Some of them, or one of them, is a search command. You can search for packages. This output is similar when you do the same what you would see when you search on Packagist. So you see all the packages. You can click on one of the links, get to the package site. Yep. Yeah, that's package of mine. Right. Then something else interesting for package developers as well is the Composer Fund. You can see a list of all the packages or all the organizations who've installed packages from, which are looking for funding. So maybe if you are interested in funding or helping to fund a package, you find all the information here. Another cool command is Composer Browse. You can run the Composer Browse with any packages, and it automatically opens often the GitHub page of the package, but it actually opens the URL that is defined in the Composer JSON file of the package you specify. Another sometimes interesting command is Composer License. It lists all the packages you are using with the license that they are running under, if you care about which licenses you are using in your package or used in the packages. And one of my favorites is Composer Status. That takes a little while because it goes through all the files in the vendor directory and looks if there are some changes. Sometimes when you are debugging in an application, you're going to a package and add a die and dump or whatever to see what happens in there. And when you run Composer Status again, then you can see you have a change in one of the packages. The only thing to revert this change is either go to the IDE or remove the vendor package and install, run a Composer install, or you can run Composer reinstall with the package name, and then it removes the package name and installs exactly this package again. And then Composer, for the ones who can type, Composer Status, it's back to normal and everything should work fine again. Yeah, that's it about basic package management. So something else that I not often but sometimes do is if there is an error in a package or something I would like to enhance in a package, I create a pull request on the package, and then normally I want to use this version of the package and not the currently main version of the package. Then what you can do instead of using the official version of a package, you can add a repositories array to your composer.json file. You can specify the URL. In this case, it's my GitHub repository or the fork of this plugin, this pest plugin here. Then we need the branch name, and then we can say we want to composer require the package and then def dash the branch name, and then we can install exactly this version from my GitHub repository for my fork until hopefully my PR gets merged. Maybe you saw it before. This is one from August last year, so I don't think it's Nuno will merge it, but yeah. No plans to merge, right? So now something else than package management, or yeah, not directly related to package management. What Composer also has are scripts. These are the 4 scripts that are automatically there when you install a fresh Laravel application. These are all scripts that are hooks from Composer. So after the update command, it runs this artisan command here. So maybe you saw it before when you run composer update. Right at the end, this command gets executed. Sometimes when we are using, for example, icons from Font Awesome, this package, the Blade icons package, if I don't know if you're familiar with, but it is really helpful when you cache the icons. So one thing we then add is to the update command and to the install command hook to cache these icons so that your local application is not suffering from slow slow icons or the slowness of the icon package. But what I really like is to have custom scripts. For example, let's remove the vendor, the node modules, and the env file. Now the application, come on, sorry, what's wrong? So now the application is in the state what if I have the git clone, so only the files from the git repository are in there. Then I can run composer setup, and it does everything for me to set up an initial working version of the application. So in my mind, that's very helpful when you're working in a company and all the projects, for example, have this setup command. So every time you're starting with a new project or working at the new project, you can clone the repository, call composer setup, and everything is set up for you. That's one of the options you have. Here, what it actually does, it runs composer install, it runs, it copies the env file, it generates the application key. That's basically what it does. What it does when you use the create command, the create project command from composer. So it's copied from there, then npm install, then the add seed. Seed is another command. Here it's very simple to seed the database, but sometimes your application might require more than just running migrate fresh and seed, or you don't want to migrate fresh, you only want to run migrate. So every project has maybe a different way to seed, but in every project you are working, you can run composer seed, and then it's seeded. You don't have to keep in mind, oh, in this project I have to run it in this way, and in another project in a different way. Something else I like is having a set of commands like this one here. The test command, one is linting, it's running pint, rector, runs rector, obviously. The type coverage runs the pest type coverage plugin we saw before. Types runs PHP stan, and the pest runs all the test. And then I have one command, the test command, that runs all the other commands. So I can run one if I want to have exactly one, or I can run the whole suite like composer test. Normally I configure composer tests in a way that when this one is green and everything is fine, oh, it is not fine. Yeah, the tests are failing because we have upgraded the Laravel to the latest version, and yeah, that's not compatible as we saw before. So it's failing. This ensures for me when I push to the Git repository, I'm quite confident that the pipelines will be green, or in this case, the pipeline will be fail. I can fix it before, and then I run composer test again. And when everything passes, then I push, and yeah, the pipelines should not fail. Something that I've done personally in my projects, I have aliases for the various commands, so I can run code T instead of composer test. So it's very quick for me. And if you do it in all the projects in the same way, you can run in all the projects composer test, regardless if they are using Rector or not using Rector, using Pint or another tool, another linter. In every project you have the same commands. So I think it's really, really worth to have a consistent set of Composer scripts in all your projects. Yep. Then something else that Composer has to offer for us is this class, this installed version class. It's inside the Composer namespace. So when we are in an application, we can check if a package is installed right on the fly. When we run this command, we can see, yeah, the package is here. Instead of installed, there's a get version as well. We can see the version constraint here. We can do the same for, let's say, for the Laravel framework. We can see this version. Hopefully, this returns the same as app.version. It's quite common if we have some dependencies that work or some code parts that are different in different Laravel versions when you're having the same application running with multiple Laravel versions. That's something we do in our company, unfortunately, because we have to support PHP versions from 7.4 up to 8.3, and there is no Laravel version that works with all the PHP versions. So we are heavily using this command here. But if something else is incompatible between an older and a later version of a package, you can use this installed versions class to get the same for any package as what you can get with the app version for the Laravel framework itself. Yeah. So that was a lot. But that's everything I have for you today. A little summary what we've covered. We started with the Composer audit and the outdated command. Then we run the Composer update with the with option to specify exactly which version of package we want to update to. We use the why and the why not command to get better output why there are some compatibility issues. We use the bump and the preferred lowest to run Composer in context of package development. We used the search, the browse, the fund, and the license command to do some different stuff that Composer offers to beside package management. We use the status to see if there are differences between the real package version and what you have locally. And we talked about custom repositories and Composer scripts and the runtime utilities Composer offers. Yeah. What's next? It's not everything that Composer offers. There's much more. When you go to the Composer website, to be honest, it looks quite ugly, but as a PHP developer, we are familiar with ugly pages. So, but I have to say the documentation is really good. It explains all the commands, all the options you have. And what is especially nice, there are some articles talking through some special topics. And one of the topics I haven't covered at all is Composer plugins. When you are developing a package, you can extend Composer in a plugin to do some fancy stuff when you install a package or upgrade a package. Then you can automatically run other scripts or whatever you like to. Yep. And the last thing to mention, it's also possible to use Composer with private repositories. So my fork from before was open for everybody to use, but in a company, maybe you have packages that you don't want to share with the public, so you can specify private repositories. with different authentication schemes. You don't have to use GitHub. You can use Bitbucket or GitLab or whatever version control you like. Yeah, so check out getcomposer.org. It's really worth to see what it offers for us. And I'm really looking forward to future releases of composers because they added a lot of good stuff in the last few releases. So I think it will be even better in the future, or at least I hope so. Yeah, thank you very much. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on pinkary.com, or you can find all the links from where you can find me in the web there. Thank you.